Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is ZalotAngel and welcome to What I Review. If you're not familiar with my What I Review series, it's where I find new and interesting games on Steam, or games that I personally find interesting and want to show off to the rest of you, and basically review them. Yes, and today we are What I Review. What are we reviewing today? Oh fuck me, this has been an absolute disaster getting this fucking done. You'll see why at the end of the video, and I advise all of you who are watching this to please watch till the very end, because there is a message at the very end of the video that it's kind of required, that is required for you to watch, because it's very important to my reviews, for me to be able to review in the future, to keep on reviewing, because it's a big change, okay? But anyway, what am I reviewing today? What I'm reviewing is Megadimension V2, Victory 2, number 7, fuck me. Only Idea Factory and Complie Heart can get away with calling it fucking Roman numerals, but there's actually a reason for that. It's called Victory 2, and it's also called 7. The reason why it's called 7 is because it is actually the 7th game, the 7th actual main game in the franchise that isn't a spin-off. The spin-offs don't count, but it is the 7th main game in the franchise. Just to clear all that up for everybody. Okay, it's Victory 2, and it's also 7 because it's the 7th game in the title that does not count the fucking spin-offs, okay? What is it? It's a JRPG, of course it is. It's a fucking game that takes the piss out of the game industry and shit like that. What the fuck? Honestly. Now, you may notice a couple of things will be different with this review. It's not going to be live commentary this time around. But obviously the only parts that will be live commentary in general will be the options menu. Me going through the options menu. And the reason why I'm using the mouse will become apparent once we get to that point in the review. But unfortunately, I have to resort to using the mouse because this game with fucking controllers is for some reason broken. To a degree, shall we say. But the options menu, let's go over the options menu. You have your sound settings, you have output to mono, stereo, surround, you have separate audio sliders, which is always good. You have the voice acting from English and Japanese. Obviously, the voice acting is very good for Japanese. The English, I do personally have a problem with the English voice acting. Not that they're bad voice actors, just some of them don't fit. That's my personal opinion, but they are good voice actresses in general. Obviously, you have camera controls here that you can fuck around with. Obviously, always nice. You have the events list, which you can mess around with and change as well. Dungeons, of course. Now, here's the options menu, and this is where it gets a bit confusing, because when I saw the Steam store page for this, when this came out 2 days ago, I'll put an annotation on the screen right now. I'll put a screenshot on the screen right now. This is the Steam store page. This is the system specs that I needed to run this game. Those kind of seem a little bit false. Do you want to know why? I'm running an Intel Core i7 3770 3.40 GHz CPU with a GTX 660 GPU and 8 gigs of RAM. That's my system. I've got everything turned up. Why do the recommended say I need a fucking 960? What the fuck? Yeah, but the minimum requirements are kind of right in the idea that of a processor. I have had a couple of people mention to me that they're running lesser processors that are having trouble running the game because they don't have an i5 CPU. Obviously. But the system specs seem to be true, but they also seem to be false to a certain degree, because I'm not running a powerful machine in the fucking slightest. You know, I'm not running a powerful machine at all here. Mine's medium. Mine's medium to about low. And yeah, I can run this on high with no problems. But yes, you have your resolution settings. Obviously, they go all the way up to 1920 by 1080. And of course, this game looks gorgeous in 1080p. I will be doing all the footage, all the post-recorded footage will be in 1080p, so don't worry about that. It has window mode all the way up to borderless window to full screen. The texture quality is on high and low. There's no fucking middle ground, or there's nothing there, nothing you can do there. It's just low or high. Okay, you have shadow map side, which is obviously the fucking shadow quality, low, medium, or high. You have depth of field on or off. You have anti-aliasing. Now, this is the problem I always have with a lot of Japanese developers that put anti-aliasing into the game. I appreciate the fact that you put anti-aliasing into the game, but please tell me what type of anti-aliasing it is. Is it FXAA? Is it TXAA? Is it SAAA? SOAA? You know, what kind of anti-aliasing are we looking at here? Don't know. And of course, VSync, turn that off. There has absolutely been no screen tearing to my knowledge. I've seen no screen whatsoever. I'm thinking, what about the resolution? Not resolution, fucking, yeah. What about the frame rate? The frame rate does run at a solid 60. And I say solid very fucking loosely in quotation marks there. I may have mentioned that I'm going to mention in the video that there is occasional stuttering and freezing that does happen within gameplay, within cutscenes, and within transactions within in and out battle. There are these weird stutterings and freezing moments that kind of cause the frame rate to kind of shit the bed a little bit, to go down to almost like 20 frames per second briefly. It's bizarre, really. You have your device settings, obviously controller to mouse and keyboard. The controllers, piece of advice to everyone who's potentially going to be buying this. There is issues right now with the controllers, with both PS4, the DualShock 4, and the Xbox controller. There are some issues resulting these controllers at the moment. Best to use just mouse and keyboard for this, just in case. Yes, there are rebindable keys. Are they rebindable? Yes, they are. They are 100% rebindable on Xbox. Otherwise, the only problem with that is that apparently the PS4's controller, the DualShock 4 controller, is not rebindable keys, unfortunately. I don't fucking know why. The game's like whole technical side of the options when it comes to the controllers is kind of fucked up at the moment. But what can you do? But yeah, the options menu itself, again, I'm actually quite pleased with this. Coming from like a Japanese developer for this sort of art style, obviously anime style game, that they've actually put some effort into the options menu this time compared to how the previous games that came to PC didn't have that good of an options menu that this one actually does. Very happy to see that, and yes, it does perform alright, apart from the stuttering and the frame rate issues, but what the fuck can you do about that? So yes, the performance is kind of... It does stay at 60, but there's a stuttering and the freezing that happens. It's weird. You'll see once I get to the gameplay in the video, but so far the options menu, it's pretty decent. There are controller issues for some reason. Don't know why. They're going to have to look into that, but we'll dive into the review now, and we'll get into this. To start off prominently, and it's one of the things I complained about in the previous ones, is the dungeons. The dungeons have been slightly tweaked, and when I say slightly tweaked, in the way that the dungeons are actually much larger than they used to be. They are much larger, usually consisting of several floors. Not floors as in problems, as in floors as in actual floors, FLOORS. And they usually house a lot more secrets now than they once did. This adds more incentive to explore and find every nook and cranny of each area. Each dungeon now has objects that are now breakable. You can find hidden passageways that lead to more items, to more drops, more loot, and stuff like that. There are even points in the game where you have to kind of come back at a later time to kind of pick up the items that you once couldn't be able to pick up because you, like for instance, you couldn't jump high enough or you didn't have the power to destroy these boxes. The challenge system adds more objectives to the game in the sense that there are certain things that you can do throughout the game. These can range from jump X amount of times to run X amount of distance to spend X amount of time in a dungeon as this character, you know, so on and so forth. And upon completing these challenges, you are given a permanent upgrade to a specific character stat. Specifically, it's that character who actually finished the challenge. So, as an example, if you went through one dungeon and if you spent 10 minutes in that dungeon running through with, like, Neptune, for instance, you would get a permanent stat upgrade for her. Not really for anybody else because you'd have to swap to them. So the challenges kind of add more of an incentive to kind of fuck around and mess around with the kind of game mechanics. I mean, hell, one of the challenges is I'm a kangaroo. Yeah, very clever there, Complie Heart. Now, the combat system has also been changed quite a lot. To start off, we'll go over the EXE bar. The EXE bar now resets after every battle, removing the ability to instantly win every battle in said dungeon. But this has been replaced with the characters having more abilities and more moves. The combat system is a bit different also. You may need to focus on this because this is also very important. Each attack now has a certain bit of text, which you will see right here, that if you fulfill grants more damage for said attack if used as it's stated. As an example, let's say you have an attack that says, if you use this attack and you haven't used, let's say, a rush attack, which is the top one, that attack will do more damage. That said attack there will do more damage when it executes. And upon fulfilling that, obviously it does more damage, but it has to be done exactly as the little bit of text says. It's good because it allows you to kind of get that little bit extra edge in battle, but at the same time, not so much when you have to kind of deteriorate from an original plan to kind of focus on damage. Would you rather go for strategy or would you rather go for damage is kind of the premise here. Not to mention as well, when it comes to the combo system, is that one thing to bear in mind is that each weapon now holds specific combo slots that change, basically. Like you could equip a weapon that gives you 5 bars worth of rush, but only 1 bar of power and 1 bar of standard. Or you could end up with a weapon that could give you 3 power, 3 standard, and 2 rush. So it's kind of a mix and match here of like, what would you rather prefer to have? A weapon that does more damage, or a weapon that allows you to do more combos but less damage, or whatever it may be. So it kind of has that element of strategy. It isn't just about equipping the most powerfulest weapon, the one that does the most damage. It's all about strategizing and trying to figure out what will be the most optimal way to do this, which is beneficial. One new addition to the game as well is they're kind of taking something from kind of Agarest here, which is instead of freely selecting a location like you previously did back in the Rebirth games, you now have a grid, like a line that you can follow that has these blue dots, which are basically can lead to something called random encounters. And how it works is when you move from point to point, you may end up being ambushed by an enemy and then forced into a battle. But let's be honest here, this has to be the most annoying thing about this game. They halt your progress to fight enemies you are too over leveled for and end up wasting your time. Not to mention, once the battle is over, you have to reselect your destination again and cross your fingers and pray to God it doesn't happen again. Which is the one big downside to it, is that you are forced into these battles, and unfortunately, if you are already in the process of going towards a destination, after the battle is finished, you have to go and reselect that destination. And you may end up doing another battle again immediately after that one, which is single-handedly the most annoying thing. But luckily, once you've beaten the game, that no longer becomes a problem, as the game gives you the option to not bother with that anymore. As always, going down onto the graphical fidelity here, Complie Heart always delivers when it comes to its beautiful looking games. It really, really does. From the character designs to the environments, it has this very bright and cheerful aesthetic that is very appealing to the eyes. And of course, one little thing that I really do like about it is how each nation having its own look and architecture to them that fits the characters, makes it that much more appealing. I'm constantly complimenting Complie Heart for their very, very beautiful looking character designs and environments and CGs. Now, moving on to the characters, this is where we get to the fucking bread and butter of it. Of course, all the original characters are back for this one. If you're not familiar who the original characters are, those being Neptune, Nepgear, Noir, Univert, Blanc, Ron, Ram, Compat, and Ive, with the addition of a few new characters. Uzume Tanaboshi and all the Neptunes, C-Sha, B-Sha, K-Sha, and S-Sha, and Kurame Akukuboshi. If you haven't figured out that C-Sha is basically Capcom, K-Sha is fucking Konami, B-Sha is Bandai, and S-Sha, who also has split personalities with another person that's called E-Sha, is basically Square Enix. The returning characters themselves are the same as they always were, but they feel more fleshed out this time. With Complie Heart going for a much darker plot than its predecessors, as I've previously stated, it's allowed the characters to express themselves differently and portray their personalities and characteristics more than usual. Of course, they still do retain their quirky and thoughtful breaking nature, but they feel a lot more like characters this time around, more so than usual, which is always a plus in my part. Now, moving on to the known issues. After browsing around, as always, I like to bring up the couple of bugs, a couple of issues that the game may have, and these are ones that I've come across myself. The ones that I've noticed, there are these random freezes and stutterings that happens. Like, the game sometimes randomly freezes and stutters. That happens during cutscenes, during gameplay, during the world map, during transitions between battle, like in battle and out of battle. They're not that big of an issue, but they can drag on your nerve after a while. Another issue seems to be on the controller side of things. After testing both PS4 and Xbox One controller, they both seem to have their own unique problems with the game. On the PS4 side of the problem, on the DualShock 4, all the buttons seem to be in random places with no way to rebind them. And doing so kind of breaks the rebindable key section in the options menu and leaves the camera rotating around the character in the dungeons. I don't know exactly what causes this problem, but it certainly seems odd since this is a PS4 game originally, so I thought they would have, done that properly with a fucking DualShock 4 controller. Now with the Xbox One controller, this seems rather peculiar. This is going to be difficult to explain. When you try to move down on the analog stick, like if you push down on the analog stick or if you push down on the D-pad in certain menus, it has this weird problem. In the item menu, in the combo menu, in the equipment menu, in the skills menu, library, and even in the options menu, you are unable to move down using the analog stick or the D-pad and have to resort to using the mouse. The combo menu itself is the biggest problem, where the Xbox controller, the analog stick and the D-pad flat out doesn't even work anymore. In the combo menu, you have to resort to completely using the mouse. And if you have to move around, like if you have to move to the 5th tier of the attacks, you literally have to unplug your Xbox controller and use WASD to move around. To which then you have to re-plug in the controller, go back to the options menu and change the controller, change it from mouse and keyboard to controller. I don't understand how this has become a problem. The weirdest thing, however, is that in-game, like when you're actually in the game, you're in the dungeons, you're in the battles, or if you're even in the world map, it picks up the controller perfectly fine. It just seems highly peculiar why the items menu, the equipment menu, combo menu, skills, the library, even the options menu doesn't pick up that much movement from the analog stick or even the D-pad. And it even seems confused by using the right analog stick sometimes to move up and down in the menus, which I don't know how this became an issue, but I don't know. It seems like to be quite a known problem, and I've been personally dealing with it myself ever since starting playing it. Now, conclusion for the game is that, can I recommend it personally? From a personal standpoint now, since we're at that point in the review where I now state my personal opinion, to people who have never played a single Hyperdimension game in their entire life, would I say it's friendly to newcomers? Certainly, because it holds really no relevance to the originals. It doesn't really follow on from Rebirth 3 or anything like that, but it is its new original story, and it does follow somewhat differently. You know, it does follow a different story, whereas the Rebirth games was kind of, they were more focused on being remakes of the original 3 games. But as a newcomer, this isn't a bad start for newcomers, because you're not really going to miss anything from not playing the previous installments. And to all of us, obviously people like me who have played all the originals and know all this already, it's, you know, it's fairly welcoming. Everything is still where it was. Everything is still standard. And there's some subtle changes, but honestly not that much. Not that much to be daunting or challenging to newcomers or people who have already participated in the game previously. But I can definitely recommend this because it feels more mature. It feels like the game has finally matured a little bit. It's seen its first pimple and it's seen its first boob growth or testicle drop or whatever. Probably boob growth, since it's mostly female characters. So it's definitely showing signs of more mature writing, more mature storytelling, which certainly is more appealing to me because I obviously enjoy that sort of thing. But yeah, I can definitely recommend this, and for the asking price, it is currently 40% off up to the 14th of July at, I think, $17.99 or your regional equivalent. Thank you all very much for watching. I've been whoever the fuck I've been. This has been a review for Megadimension Victory 2 or 7, because that's actually relevant. And please watch till the very end of the video, like after this, because there's a message I want to throw in at the end just for all of you, just because it's really important. But anyway, I've been whoever the fuck I've been. This has been a review for Megadimension. Thank you all very much for watching, and to right your faces, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next fucking video, whatever the fuck that may be. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for watching the review. I really worked hard on this one for obvious reasons. If you may notice that the review format is slightly a little bit different to what I'm used to. There's a good reason for this, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I hope you do listen to the end of this for obvious reasons, because it's actually very important. You may have noticed that this review was slightly different to my previous reviews. Usually my reviews involve doing live commentary rather than doing it pre-recorded as this one is. The reason why this is because I've been considering doing my reviews a bit more professionally, making them look a bit better, better production quality, shall we say, making them look a bit more professional. And for a while now, I've been planning to actually do them more like this, like you see, like what you just watched. Now, the idea is, the reason why this is at the end of the video is because there's something I want to ask you all. And that is, with this new review format, it does take a lot more work, but I can do a lot more things with it. Now, the reason why I want to actually do this new review format is because it's easier for me to do. It allows me to write down a script, to be able to remember everything I need to talk about. It allows me to do better edits, to be able to get everything I need to show off and explain everything better. But it does require a hell of a lot more work compared to the live commentary one. Now, the reason why I've saved this to the end of the video, and the reason why I'm bringing all this up, is because I want to know personally from all of you, which would you prefer? Would you rather me do the live commentary that my past reviews are like, or would you rather me do them like this? Because if you prefer them like this, then I'll do them from this in the future. If you prefer the live commentary, then I'll mess with the format a little bit more to try and make it a bit more. But just as personal preference, I will say that I've actually very much enjoyed doing this new type of review format, and like I said, it's probably easier for me to do in the future and be able to kind of allow me to pump more reviews out quicker and a lot more effectively, whilst providing you all with better assessments and, you know, better content than what I usually do. But if to all of you wondering why this new format's changed, that's the reason. That's entirely the reason why. I hope I don't piss a lot of people off with this new review format, but it's just an idea, and I'll see how it does. But yeah, that's just it, and it's up to you. Let me know down below, of course. But again, thank you for watching the review. I really do appreciate it. And of course, you know, I'm probably going to say the same thing that every YouTuber says, you know, like, subscribe, fucking comment, all that shit. You know, every YouTuber says that, you know, whatever. Do whatever you wish. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But thank you for sticking to the end. And this time, Terraria faces, my friends.